April 14th, 1935. They called it Black Sunday. By afternoon, the sky went pitch black. It wasn't nightfall. It was a storm of dust so massive it turned day into darkness across 5 U.S. states. People ran blindly through the streets. Chickens roosted at noon. Cows suffocated. This wasn't a tornado. It was a wall of wind and dust. Haboob. Born of heat, drought, and the scars of poor farming, it moved like an avalanche of ash. It swallowed homes, buried tractors, left silence. And it wasn't the last. Because even now, today, storms like these still form. And worse, we may be creating the conditions for them to return. Let's understand the monsters made of dust. A haboob is a type of intense dust storm, usually triggered by a thunderstorm's downdraft. The word comes from the Arabic haboob, meaning blasting. And that's exactly what it does. Here's how it works. In dry regions, a collapsing thunderstorm sends cold air plunging downward. When this air slams into the ground, it spreads out like a tidal wave, kicking up sand, soil, and debris into a giant rolling wall. The result? A towering tsunami of dust, sometimes hundreds of kilometers wide and thousands of meters tall, moving at speeds of 40 to 100 kilometers per hour. You don't outrun it. You don't breathe in it. You survive it. Every haboob starts with convective instability. Hot, dry air near the ground rises. Cooler, denser air above sinks. The storm forms and then collapses. Now watch this. As rain-cooled air falls from the storm, called a downburst, it drags with it a curtain of dust and sand. When it hits the earth, the energy spreads outward like a shock wave. If the ground is dry and loose, like in deserts or overfarmed land, the storm lifts an enormous wall of particles. It's not just wind, it's wind weaponized by terrain. Physics isn't the enemy, it's just merciless. Not all dust storms roar in with thunder. Some twist silently into life under a clear blue sky. These are dust devils, mini tornadoes powered by sunlight. Here's how they form. Hot air near the ground rises rapidly through a cooler layer. If there's a horizontal twist in the wind, that rising air begins to spin. Voila, a swirling column of rotating air and dust. They're usually harmless. But the big ones? They've flipped cars, ripped off roofs, and they don't just haunt Earth. NASA's rovers have filmed dust devils on Mars, some over 5 kilometers tall. Even our neighboring planets aren't spared. Why do haboobs terrify us more than other storms? Because they erase the world in front of you. Vision drops to zero. Breathing becomes painful. The world feels like it's being deleted, one layer at a time. They trigger panic, not just because they're violent, but because they come out of nowhere. No thunder, no warning, just a wall of brown swallowing everything. Black Sunday wasn't just a storm. It was the symbol of an era, the Dust Bowl. Between 1930 and 1940, poor land management, relentless farming, and drought created a perfect storm. Over 100 million acres lost their topsoil. Families were forced to flee. Cities choked on dust. America faced its first climate disaster. Out of that came the Soil Conservation Act, planting projects, and environmental awakening. But the lesson is clear. When we ignore the land, the wind writes history for us. Haboobs are natural, but their frequency is not. As the planet warms, drought zones expand, deserts grow, farmlands dry out, wildfires strip the land bare. What's left? Loose, dry soil, and a sky with revenge. Modern cities, Phoenix, Riyadh, Sydney, now face regular dust walls. Our ancestors saw Black Sunday as a warning. We're beginning to see it as a forecast. Can we stop these monsters? Not completely, but we can prepare. Plant roots bind soil. No-till farming prevents dust. Wind barriers slow the storm. AI now helps forecast dry zone surges. We can't kill the wind, but we can take away its weapons. Every breath of wind tells a story of the land, of the sun, of us. Dust storms are the earth exhaling, sometimes with violence, sometimes with grace. They remind us that our atmosphere is alive, and that we ignore it at our own peril. This is the Mind Bender. Subscribe and keep asking, what other monsters have we yet to understand?